Blender Foundation announced Blender 4.5 Beta is available for download. Feel free to try it out. This is the perfect opportunity for artists and creators to showcase their skills. Download this version of Blender for testing, identify any bugs, and report them to the development team to help improve and upgrade Blender. For those eager to try it out or planning to download and test it, simply visit the blender.org website. Go to the download section, scroll directly to the bottom of the page, and click to download the experimental version of Blender. This will take you straight to the download page where you can obtain it. The 4.5 test version supports all platforms, Windows, Mac, and Linux. It's worth mentioning that Blender 5.0 has entered the alpha testing phase. More details about Blender 5.0 will be introduced when significant updates are available. The official release of Blender 4.5 is scheduled for July 15, 2025, with a pre-release version coming on July 9, 2025. Of course, for those who enjoy trying out new features early, you can get a sneak peek now. You can download and experience it now, so without further ado, let's take a sneak peek at the new highlights of the Blender 4.5 beta. These features are waiting for you to explore in the 4.5 beta. I've already opened the Blender 4.5 beta, and you can see this super cool startup screen. Let's give a thumbs up to the developers at the Blender Studio. This is just one of their many development projects, and it looks like a game project developed with the Godot engine. They have quite a few interesting projects on hand, and those who are interested can keep an eye on them. We'll discuss the details at the end of the video. Now let's take a look at the user interface. Experience the surprises brought by the new version in the Blender 4.5 beta. After opening the user interface, you'll notice that the interface hasn't changed much. Regarding the user interface, aside from the obvious name changes, there are small improvements throughout, and I think these features could be quite useful. These improvements enhance the user experience. They optimize Blender's operation and creative workflow. One of the most noticeable changes in interaction is this feature. If you use a mouse that supports multiple scroll wheel modes, like the MX Master Mouse, you'll find that vertical scrolling is now supported. For example, in the timeline area, you can now use the vertical scroll wheel to scroll left and right without having to hold down the middle button to drag. This feature is particularly useful in narrow areas, such as when you need to scroll to a specific path. You can directly use vertical scrolling. Another highlight is in the Properties panel, where you can now customize options that need to be synchronized with properties, including all these toggleable control options. You can flexibly control the toggles for rendering output, including the global settings for the view layer scene. Options for collections and objects, among others, allow for more convenient customization. In the Properties panel, you can focus on adjusting core content. Now, when you need to save a file, after clicking the File button to initiate project saving, the Save and Save As functions are clearly distinguished, including 3 modes: Save As, Save a Copy, and Incremental Save. Each action will display a clear function description, no longer just showing a simple saved status as before. The sidebar also has a very useful new feature. For example, when you select a particular item, it is especially helpful for users with many plugins. When you scroll down after selecting an item, there's no need to scroll back to the top to find the currently used plugin anymore. You can quickly locate it by pressing the period key. For instance, when scrolling through projects in view mode and you accidentally lose track of the previously selected sidebar, pressing the period key will immediately bring up the required panel. There are also several practical optimizations for tablet operations. For friends who are creating with a digital screen, this feature is especially beneficial for users with a stylus, as it enables sliding or zooming operations within specific areas of Blender. Another practical feature is the deletion of materials, which by default merely requires switching to the object options. Scroll down to the cleanup options to remove unused material slots. Once the operation is complete, the system will have removed 2 material slots. In version 4.5, you can further delete all associated materials in the current file. This feature is particularly useful when you need to redo texture processing, or if you need to obtain a clean render effect of the current 3D model. The Asset Browser has added some very practical features, allowing you to customize the display mode of the Asset Browser, such as setting preferences for a horizontal layout. This interface design is quite innovative. You can customize the number of columns and preview image sizes. Adjust these features anytime. The Resource Browser optimized icon and label spacing. The File Browser now supports multi-file drag and drop, letting you move files directly from the file browser to your display area. Previously, only single imports were supported, but now batch imports are possible. The Timeline Editor has also received slight optimizations. The Node Editor has added several practical features, and we have previously provided a comprehensive overview of the optimization of Blender's node operations. Viewers who are unable to watch the live broadcast can conveniently view the replay on the channel. Simply click to explore the new features. The operation is quite straightforward. Enter the shader node module, select any desired node, and press the F key to swiftly create a frame. After naming it Node 1, simply press Enter to confirm. When multiple objects are selected, you just need to press the F key to name them as shader. The operation is just that simple, and this also applies to geometry nodes. The F shortcut key is clearly more convenient than the previous one. It supports creating nested frames of unlimited levels. Additionally, you can freely add nodes. Simply click to add a node within the target frame, and when you hover, the target area will automatically highlight. Release the mouse to complete the action. This feature will be directly displayed here after selecting this node. By holding down the F key, you can bring up the function panel. While dragging, keep holding the F key, move to the target position, and then release. This feature can also be embedded using node group functionality, which has received some cool updates. Now, the panel within the node group supports toggle input options. This enables support for extended enumeration types. Now, drop-down menus can be directly integrated into the node group interface. These menus can adapt to various usage scenarios and have added intelligent hide feature input options, which automatically show or hide based on the selected menu. This is simply a magic tool for friends working with development tools and plugins. The built-in nodes have also been comprehensively optimized. The new node interface is more streamlined and easier to use. Speaking of these practical nodes, they now support batch importing of external data into geometry nodes. Just drag and drop to do it. The geometry node tool auto-generates nodes with functions to handle the data you import. The format is new in Blender 4.5. Text in various file formats such as VDB. Each specific format possesses its own dedicated import node. Now, it is possible to directly import these files into the geometry node system. Version 4.5 has introduced advanced modeling features, including a newly developed mesh normal setting node that facilitates smooth transitions between meshes without modifying the overall topology. The geometry nodes have another cool feature that I'm sure everyone will love. For example, we first create a mesh and then instantiate a simple cube on the mesh, which by default will generate this effect. You can adjust the values to 5 or expand further. These operations are very simple and convenient. We usually complete these settings first and then export them as independent objects to other DCC software, especially when creating procedurally generated content or when large-scale scenes are needed. It can also be converted into a simple object. Now, these operations have become very simple. Once you complete the setup, select the object, find the application option, and choose the visual geometry conversion. The system will automatically generate these elements and convert them into solid objects. The current version also offers a very practical error handling feature. The system now displays it in a more intuitive visual manner. When performing incorrect connection operations using a grid as an example, if we connect it to the instance index, the system will display a visual prompt indicating that this is an incorrect operation. When we perform such connection operations, we can also see that this design is very reasonable, and this feature is also applicable to area operations. When you create a region and perform simulation operations, if an error occurs, the connection system will also provide a prompt. This setup also includes several practical features, now supporting the use of geometry nodes with a brand new user interface, for those looking to try combining Grease Pencil with geometry nodes. There are also corresponding updates on how to fully utilize geometry nodes to optimize the Grease Pencil workflow efficiently. These features, along with camera color grading functionalities, include numerous exciting new features such as format string node updates and are now completely available in Blender version 4.5. There are also several important updates in the compositor. First, several new node types have been added, including vector operations, vector rotation, vector mixing, value limiting, float curve, and blackbody radiation. These nodes have been added because their functions are completely consistent with the corresponding functions of shader and geometry nodes, and they can be directly copied from the existing node count for use. Additionally, a new coordinate node has been added, which can output various pixel coordinate formats, including normalized coordinates and integer coordinates. Texture nodes, which were previously only used for geometry nodes and shaders, are now supported for use in the compositor. A new relative pixel conversion node has been added, which can convert relative values based on image size into actual pixel values. Moreover, a number of new nodes have been introduced, such as a noise node that supports GPU acceleration. An auxiliary background tool for box and ellipse masks has also been incorporated, enabling precise control over localized mask effects. This feature is particularly aesthetically pleasing when it comes to processing images. There are numerous control options available that enable you to freely modify the mask effects. A newly introduced split node function has been incorporated, and the split node is now included. It also integrates a gizmo tool for image segmentation, allowing you to adjust the image display ratio through the segmentation tool. There are some interesting features regarding image overlay and rendering dimensions. Many node functions have also undergone parameter adjustments. Some nodes have been removed due to functionality and compatibility issues. Speaking of compatibility, there is an important matter to inform everyone about. First, Blender 4.5 no longer supports by default Support for Mac OS systems with Intel chips has been discontinued due to the high maintenance costs of fixing graphical issues with Intel and AMD GPUs on Mac. Additionally, there are a few other features that have been deprecated. Version 4.5 is the last Blender version to support format import and export, so DAW files will not be usable in version 5.0. Version 4.5 is the last to retain this compatibility option. In the future, plugins using built-in shaders will need to switch to line or point shader variants to be compatible with Metal or Vulcan. Now, let's talk about the Eevee rendering engine. Vulcan has officially made its debut. This popular rendering backend is now on par with OpenGL. The biggest advantage of Vulcan is its ability to significantly enhance overall performance. Previously, this feature was only an experimental function in older versions of Blender, but it has now been officially integrated into the main version. In fact, this feature was released with the official version of Blender 4.5, and it is expected that in the official version 4.5, Vulcan will become the default rendering backend. If you are using the Blender 4.5 beta version, simply click on the Edit menu and then Preferences. In the system settings, you can directly switch the graphics rendering backend from OpenGL to Vulcan. After making changes, you need to restart Blender for the settings to take effect. Compared to OpenGL, Vulcan offers significant performance improvements, but Vulcan also has some limitations, including limited support for WOM. Moreover, the performance of VR is somewhat reduced. Given that the majority of Blender users operate on desktop computers or laptops, VR users constitute a smaller segment. On the whole, the introduction of Vulcan has delivered substantial enhancements in performance. Vulcan further supports sophisticated technologies such as OpenXR subdivision surfaces. In addition to the important updates to EVI, there have also been some improvements to the external shadow terminator. In short, this improvement can effectively prevent abnormal shadow distortions on the model's surface, making the overall shadow performance of the model more realistic and natural. This improvement is particularly practical, especially when handling models that possess intricate details such as bump maps. Furthermore, a collection of efficient algorithmic solutions has been incorporated. This update includes several bug fixes and performance optimizations and now supports navigation features and GPU-based subdivision surfaces. It also supports both Metal and Vulkan graphics APIs. Compared to CPU processing, the GPU solution offers smoother frame rate performance, and when handling GPU-based subdivision surface meshes, the Cycles renderer has undergone several optimizations and upgrades. Notably, the adaptive subdivision feature fills in a previously missing important characteristic. This encompasses attribute subdivision, smooth UV subdivision, and enhanced multi-threading capabilities for motion blur effects. The bump mapping now utilizes an improved correction algorithm that effectively prevents the loss of detail, particularly around shadow terminator regions. This aligns with the effects we previously elaborated on in Eevee, so now more detailed information can be preserved, applicable to both normal maps and bump maps. Furthermore, a customizable camera feature has been incorporated, and for AMD users, the ray tracing capability is now activated by default. As long as you use the appropriate model of GPU, several practical features have been added in modeling and UV mapping, including the newly supported rotation of the Snap to Corsair function, which attaches to the keel. This feature is incredibly useful for modelers, and the dashed grid function has also received several upgrades. The point cloud feature and the image editor have been improved. Now in the image editor, you can directly display the UV maps of all selected and active objects, regardless of whether you are currently in object mode. Previously, you had to manually select these objects and then switch to edit mode to operate. You can edit later. Now, just select the object to view it easily. It supports selecting multiple objects, letting you see all UV maps at once with one click in the image editor. For Blender animation and rigging, there are several great optimizations, especially the enhanced snapping feature. Whether it's adding markers, performing real operations, or precisely positioning to keyframes, this new feature is sure to captivate you. It supports precise snapping to specified paths, allowing you to align the playhead accurately to frame, second markers, keyframes, and video clips. Based on your playhead operation habits, you can now easily perform various alignment operations. The alignment feature can be turned on or off at any time. By holding down the Ctrl key on the keyboard, you can drag the playhead simultaneously. Additionally, global transform copy functionality is now supported. The key insertion feature, along with several interface optimizations for sculpting and painting functions, has introduced several practical updates and added multiple parameter settings. These features are designed specifically for digital screen users, with added support for pen tilt when using a graphics tablet. The system now auto-adjusts the brush based on the tilt angle of the pressure-sensitive pen. This tilt support feature includes tilt coefficient adjustment, This feature works with the drawing brush, sharpening brush, planer tool, and clay strip tool. As per official statements, the system's performance is optimized. When using dynamic topology or multi-resolution modifiers for high vertex models, we will test this performance boost in future videos. Future videos will demonstrate particular effects in detail. Notably, sculpting, painting, and texturing have been significantly enhanced and are quite impressive. The video sequence editor received numerous upgrades, yet it still falls behind other tools. Nonetheless, with continuous optimizations, it is slowly improving. The feature is slowly improving. These improvements involve the overall UI interface and operational logic. We have also restructured the very practical sleep operator, which can be used for fragment animation production and quick browsing. Additionally, there are several impressive new features in fragment editing operations and direct editing functions within the video sequence editor. This update also involves some functional adjustments and removals, which are very practical. There are several noteworthy improvements in the input-output pipeline. The TF format has gained multiple new supports, the FBSEX format has also been upgraded, and the RGS-VG image and video files have been optimized accordingly. As previously announced, the CLADA file format will no longer be supported in Blender 5.0, with version 4.5 being the last supported version. There are not many updates in the physics engine, mainly focusing on simulation system optimization. We have now launched two important updates for the motion tracking feature. These updates focus on optimizing overall performance. The core engine has introduced several significant updates, and Python developers will experience many innovative features. Blender 4.5 has released a plethora of new features to cater to different usage needs. Feel free to download and experience it now. Blender 4.5 is open for public testing, making it the perfect time to participate and submit feedback. Version 5.0 has just started internal testing and is still in development. We will promptly showcase new features as important updates are released. For developers interested in high-quality projects, the Blender community is working on several projects, all of which have standout features. You are welcome to check the details of these projects at any time. The project is currently named Storm, but the name may be adjusted based on circumstances and the development direction. The previously mentioned dog walking animation feature has now been released, and as we said, this dog walking animation is quite a cool feature. Once this feature is officially launched, I would like to experience it myself. Currently, this feature requires a subscription to use, and only by becoming a Blender Studio member can you get early access to this feature. If you want to learn about the production process behind these cool features, you can take the character rigging course to understand the entire production workflow. The Blender Studio team has recently announced the short film Starting Point, which is one of several new short films they are preparing. For those interested in seeing the charm of this short film, you can focus on its narrative techniques and the various adorable characters that will appear to understand the current creative thinking of the production team. In my view, the original design intention of this project is to be an extreme test for Blender 5.0, which will be a significant milestone in the software's development for the Blender development team. Once the version number reaches a stable stage, subsequent work will mainly focus on version updates and maintenance, just like the current versions 4.5 and 4.4. That's all the content prepared for friends who want to explore these new features. See you in the next video.